Let's talk about New York City real estate, the stock market, and the coronavirus and how these things intersect. Okay. So as of last Monday, June 22nd, we are open for business in New York City. Real estate wise, we can show, we can transact and do closings. We can do photos and floor plans, and all that is great. Yes, we have to wear masks. Clients have to wear masks. There are all kinds of regulations and considerations and guidelines to keep things safe. But generally speaking, we are open for business, and that is important. And we're seeing transactions happening. I was just in a multiple offer situation in Brooklyn over the past week, few days. And that was, it was like right out of the gun, right out of the what is it? The gun? I don't know what it is, but right as the start happened, I got into a multiple offer situation in Brooklyn. These things are real. There were 4 offers on what is ostensibly a pretty good deal in a part of Brooklyn near Prospect Park. Now, I don't want to give too many details away about it, but there are real buyers, there's real action happening, especially for good listings, for good properties that are desirable for whatever segment of the population you're talking about. So this is not going to go away. And part of that is because everyone that, talks about New York City is like, oh, it's over, it's this and that. If you live here and this is your home and this is where you work, you're still going to be looking at real estate in these places. And that's true of the folks I was working with. It's true of myself. It's true of most of the people that I've talked to. What I have seen is I've seen people with means well capitalized that have been looking for weekend homes, country homes, etc., instead maybe of buying other places in the city. I think that you're talking to agents in Westchester, Nassau, upstate New York, along the Hudson Valley. These markets are very busy right now. Totally makes sense. We know that a lot of people are going to be looking outside the city as well, but it doesn't mean that people aren't still transacting in Brooklyn and Queens and Manhattan, but you really have to be very specific about the price point that you're in, whether it is the high end, which there's more negotiability in, and the low end, both in Brooklyn and Queens, is really not as negotiable between, and when I say negotiable, I mean the difference between the last asking price and then the contract or the sale price. That's what we talk about when we're talking about negotiability. And I have specific numbers on that, which are great because Corcoran data folks have given that to us, an updated version, which I talked about before. I'm not actually going to share those specific numbers. That's only for clients of mine. I apologize if you're not a client of mine, but if you become one, I'm happy to share it because this is critical information when you're negotiating either for a buyer or a seller. Like knowing the segment of the market that you're in, the borough that you're in, the neighborhood that you're in, and the kind of negotiability that we're seeing can really be an advantage to knowing what the cards the other player across the table has from you. I always like to look at real estate negotiations a little bit like Texas Hold'em, like no limit Texas Hold'em, right? Because you have a hand, the other person has a hand. You're trying to figure out who is going to take that hand, particularly in a multiple offer situation. And this is one of the ways you do it. So anyway, with that said, the segments of the market in terms of, are you in the low end of the market in Brooklyn? Are you in the low end of the market in Manhattan? Are you in the high end in either market? Or are you in the middle? Really has an effect, a huge effect, like 3 times more negotiability in certain segments of the market than others. So that said, the real takeaway here for anybody who's concerned about buying or selling real estate right now is that things are transacting. And that is the most important thing. Now, when it comes to the economy and what's going on, this is having an effect on real estate here and real estate all over the country. But the thing that's happening is that on Friday, we had a big drop in the stock market. So we saw between 2.5% and 3% loss of value in the stock market. I'll show you the article in CNBC too. So you can see these numbers are from Friday: 2.84% for the Dow Jones, 2.42 for the S&P, and 2.6 for the NASDAQ. Part of the reason this is because of the bad news that's coming out about coronavirus. And here's some of that news. Coronavirus cases worldwide top 10 million with nearly 500,000 deaths, and 25% are in the US. Okay, so these are big numbers, and the market is reacting to some of this information. What I've been talking about sort of personally with friends and clients, and then also I think I've talked about this, as the real estate nerd in these videos, is that we're going to have what I like to call roving economic brownouts all over the country and all over the world for a while to come, it seems, because we're on the upswing in most of the rest of the country. In New York City, cases are still down and negligible, which is wonderful. We did a great job of taking care of each other by following the guidelines and wearing masks. And we are seeing the benefits of that as we reopen, and we're not seeing a spike in cases. All those places across the country that have pushed for reopening too early are now seeing cases shoot up. Florida is one example. Arizona is another. Unfortunately, I think California as well. So one, please take it seriously. It's wear a mask. It's really not that big a sacrifice. You just get used to it and then it's fine. But more importantly, these roving economic brownouts, where we're going to see shutdowns or partial shutdowns of the economy in different places in the country because of these spiking coronavirus numbers, and all over the world. Brazil is number 2, right behind the US in terms of total cases. These things are going to have an effect on the overall world economy. They're going to have an effect on the stock market. And part of that volatility you're seeing is because of this news. Now, if you listen to the professionals who talk about the stock market, like a lot of them, I see them shaking their heads and they're like, this is like, it's the stock market almost seems random, right? It doesn't seem to be acting with the kind of analysis and sort of thought that they want to see the stock market acting with. Some people posit that the reason that is because of millennials, and because people like who use like Robinhood, the non-professionals, the kind of weekend warriors who have been locked up for the past 3 months and have had nothing else to do but sit around and try and trade. Whatever that reason is, it is creating this very unpredictable volatility in the market. The only thing I can say there is, what is not volatile, that you can't lose 3% in a day or 5% in a day? What kind of investments do that? The real estate is the one that comes to my mind, right? Because of the inherent illiquidity of real estate, it just can't change prices that quickly. So it's insulated from some of these sharp ups and downs, but obviously goes in its own cycles as well. So just think about that as you're going forward. Think about it if you're thinking about selling. Think about it if you're thinking about buying, okay? There's a lot more I could talk about, but I will talk about it in the next video. And that's it for right now. Keep those things in mind. The volatility in the stock market is not over. Real estate is not as volatile, and the coronavirus is going to keep marching on until we start taking this thing seriously. All that said, in certain segments of the market, the low end, particularly of both Manhattan and Brooklyn and Queens, we're seeing real activity, multiple offer situations. I was just in one in Brooklyn in the past week with 4 offers on one property. These things are transacting no matter what. Brooklyn seems unstoppable. Manhattan has a harder time unless you're in the lower end of the market, and Queens is also marching right along. So that's it for today. Stay safe, stay distanced, wear your mask, do some meditation, and go out there and get back in the economy. And have a bite outdoors at your favorite restaurant.